There's a secret the wealthy know that the poor refuse to believe. Wealth isn't created by individual genius. It's extracted through strategic dependence. Every empire, every fortune, every concentration of power exists because someone figured out how to make others need them. Machiavelli understood this at a cellular level. He watched princes rise and fall. He studied how power consolidated and how it dissolved. And he identified the one constant. Those who control what others depend on control everything. This isn't about exploitation. This is about structure. The weak don't just fail to become strong. They actively, unconsciously, systematically make the strong stronger. They volunteer their dependence. They surrender their autonomy. They build the very cages that imprison them, and they never realize they're doing it. By the end of this, you'll see the architecture of dependence. You'll understand exactly how your needs are weaponized against you, and you'll learn the only escape, becoming what others depend on instead of depending on them. Let's start with Machiavelli's core principle. Power flows to control necessities. Not luxuries, not conveniences, necessities. The things people cannot do without. Food, water, shelter, security, information, access, infrastructure. Whoever controls these controls behavior. Whoever provides what cannot be refused dictates terms. This is the foundation of all power. Think about it. Why do employees obey bosses? Because the boss controls access to income. Why do tenants comply with landlords? Because the landlord controls access to shelter. Why do citizens obey governments? Because governments control access to legal protection and violence. The relationship isn't voluntary, it's structural. One party controls what the other party needs to survive. And that asymmetry creates dependence. And dependence is power. Machiavelli wrote, "Men are so simple and so subject to present necessities that he who seeks to deceive will always find someone who will allow himself to be deceived." Translation: people can be controlled through their needs, and they'll rationalize the control as choice. Now here's where it gets dark. The weak don't just passively fall into dependence, they actively create it. They choose convenience over sovereignty. They trade autonomy for comfort. They accept terms that guarantee their subordination, because the alternative requires effort, risk, or delayed gratification. Every subscription service you pay for, every platform you depend on, every middleman you funnel money through, every system you plug into without understanding, you're volunteering dependence. And the people who built those systems, they're getting rich, not from creating value, from creating dependence. Look at how wealth concentrates. Amazon doesn't make money because their products are superior. They make money because millions of businesses depend on their platform to reach customers. Take away Amazon, and those businesses collapse overnight. Google doesn't charge you for search, but they control access to information. They decide what gets seen and what disappears. They've made the entire world dependent on their infrastructure, and that dependence generates billions. Apple doesn't just sell phones. They build ecosystems that lock you in. Apps, data, accessories, all designed to make switching costs unbearable. Your dependence is the product. Machiavelli understood this principle in politics. A prince should never allow his subjects to become self-sufficient, because self-sufficient people don't need protection. They don't need governance. They don't need the prince. The best fortress is to be found in the love of the people. For although you may have fortresses, they will not save you if you are hated by the people. But Machiavelli also knew, make them need you more than they hate you, and you're untouchable. The wealthy apply this ruthlessly. They don't build businesses that solve problems permanently. They build businesses that require ongoing dependence. Software subscriptions instead of one-time purchases, leases instead of ownership, services instead of products, everything designed to create recurring revenue, which is just another way of saying recurring dependence. And the weak, they accept this. They prefer monthly payments to upfront costs. They prefer convenience to ownership. They prefer the illusion of affordability to the reality of control. Every choice like this transfers power upward. Every dependency created enriches someone else. Let's talk about employment, the foundational structure of modern dependence. You trade your time for money, but it's not an equal exchange. You need the money more than they need your time. Proof? They can replace you. You can't easily replace them. That asymmetry is everything. The moment you need something more than the other party needs you, you've lost. You're dependent. You're controlled. Machiavelli wrote extensively about mercenaries, soldiers who fought for pay rather than loyalty. He called them useless and dangerous. Why? Because their loyalty was to money, not to the cause. They'd switch sides if the pay was better. Employees are modern mercenaries. They're loyal to the paycheck, not the mission. And employers know this, which is why they structure everything to maximize your dependence. Benefits tied to employment, healthcare dependent on your job, retirement accounts that penalize early withdrawal, mortgages that require stable income, student loans that demand regular payments. Every structure designed to make quitting catastrophic, to make independence unthinkable, to ensure you remain dependent, compliant, controllable. And the weak accept this as normal. They call it security. They call it being responsible. They never realize they've traded sovereignty for survival. Now let's examine how the weak actively strengthen the strong through their consumption pattern. Every dollar you spend is a vote, not a political vote, a power vote. You're directing resources to whoever you're buying from. You're making them stronger. You're increasing their capacity to create more dependence. The poor spend money on things that depreciate. Cars, clothes, electronics, entertainment. Every purchase makes them weaker and makes someone else richer. The wealthy spend money on things that appreciate or generate returns. Assets, businesses, skills, relationships. Every purchase increases their autonomy and creates new streams of dependence from others. Here's the mechanism. When you buy a depreciating asset, you're converting your labor into someone else's profit. The value flows out of your life and into theirs. You get temporary satisfaction. They get permanent capital. But when you buy an appreciating asset, you're converting labor into compounding value. The value stays in your ecosystem. It generates returns. It creates options. The poor make the rich richer with every transaction, because they're buying consumption, while the rich are buying control. Machiavelli also understood the power of information asymmetry. Everyone sees what you appear to be. Few experience what you really are. The wealthy know things the poor don't, not because they're smarter, because they have access to different information networks. They know where regulations are changing before they change. They know where markets are moving before they move. They know where opportunity exists before it becomes visible. And this information asymmetry creates massive advantage. They position early. They buy low. They sell high. Not through genius, through access. Meanwhile, the poor are consuming free information, social media, news, viral content, all designed to shape their behavior, not inform their decisions. They're not learning how wealth actually works. They're being fed narratives that keep them dependent. Work hard, stay loyal, follow the rules, trust the system. All messages that benefit those who control the system, none that threaten it. The weak make the rich strong by remaining informationally subordinate. They don't pay for premium information. They don't cultivate elite networks. They don't position themselves at the source. They wait for information to trickle down. And by the time it reaches them, it's already been monetized by everyone above them. Let's talk about debt, the most powerful dependent structure ever created. Machiavelli wrote about how princes should manage their finances, but the principle applies universally. Whoever owes is owned. Debt is rented money. You're paying for access to capital you don't have, and that payment continues until the debt is cleared. During that entire time, you're working partially for yourself and partially for the lender. The wealthy understand this. They use debt strategically. They borrow to acquire assets that generate more than the cost of the debt. The asset pays for itself and produces excess. The debt becomes a tool for leverage, not a chain. The poor use debt for consumption. Credit cards for purchases that don't generate returns. Auto loans for depreciating vehicles. Student loans for degrees that don't increase earning capacity enough to justify the cost. Every instance of consumer debt is a transfer of power. You get immediate satisfaction. They get long-term control over your cash flow. And here's the perverse part. The system is designed to make debt feel necessary. You need a car to get to work. You need a degree to get hired. You need credit to build credit. Each piece of conventional wisdom pushes you toward dependence, and every institution profits from that dependence. Banks don't want you to pay off your mortgage early. They profit from the interest over 30 years. Credit card companies don't want you to pay your balance in full. They profit from minimum payments that never reduce principal. The weak make the rich strong by accepting debt for consumption and paying interest for decades. Now let's examine the labor trap more deeply. Machiavelli understood that military strength came from citizens who had something to defend, not mercenaries who fought for pay. Applied to wealth, your financial strength comes from owning assets, not from selling time. But the entire economy is structured to keep you selling time, to make employment seem like the only viable path, to make entrepreneurship seem risky, complicated, reserved for special people. This is propaganda, and it's incredibly effective. The wealthy want you to remain an employee, not because they're evil, because their wealth depends on your labor. Every business empire is built on the productivity of people who trade time for money. If everyone became business owners, who would be the employees? If everyone understood leverage, who would provide the labor? The system requires a base, a foundation of people who accept dependence as inevitable, who trade their productive capacity for salaries, who generate value that gets captured by those above them in the structure. The weak make the rich strong by remaining an employee mindset, by never questioning whether there's another path, by accepting that jobs are security when they're actually structured dependence. Let's talk about platforms, the modern manifestation of Machiavellian control. Every social media platform, every marketplace, every digital ecosystem is designed to create dependence. They provide free access initially. They make themselves indispensable, and once you're locked in, they start extracting. YouTubers don't own their audience. YouTube does. The moment YouTube changes the algorithm, revenue disappears. The creator is dependent on the platform's goodwill. Amazon sellers don't own their customer relationships. Amazon does. The moment Amazon decides to compete with you, you're done. Your business was built on their infrastructure. App developers don't control distribution. Apple and Google do. They take 30% of every transaction. They set the rules. They can ban you without explanation. Every creator, every seller, every entrepreneur who builds on someone else's platform is volunteering dependence. They're making the platform stronger while remaining vulnerable to its whims. Machiavelli would recognize this immediately. The platform is the prince. The users are the subjects. And the relationship is structured so that the platform extracts value while the users compete for scraps. The weak make the rich strong by building their businesses on other people's infrastructure. Now, here's the escape. Machiavelli didn't just document power, he taught how to acquire it. The formula is simple. Become what others depend on. Control necessities. Create systems where people need you more than you need them. This doesn't mean be exploitative. It means be indispensable. It means provide value so essential that your removal would create crisis. The wealthy do this systematically. They don't chase money. They create dependent structures that generate money automatically. They own real estate people need to live in. They own businesses that provide essential services. They own intellectual property that others must license. They own platforms that others must use to reach markets. Every structure creates recurring dependence. Every dependence creates recurring revenue. Every revenue stream increases autonomy and capacity to create more dependence. Here's how you apply this. Stop being dependent. Start creating dependent. Every skill you develop that others need but can't easily replicate makes you less replaceable. Every asset you own that generates income without your labor makes you less dependent on selling time. Every system you build that delivers value automatically makes you more sovereign. The shift from dependent to depended upon is the only shift that matters. Ask yourself, what do I currently depend on that I could own? What do I currently rent that I could buy? What do I currently consume that I could produce? Every answer reveals a dependence you can eliminate. Every elimination increases your power. Machiavelli wrote, "Men judge generally more by the eye than by the hand, for everyone can see but few can feel." Translation: people understand power through observation, not experience. The weak look at the rich and see success. They don't see the structure beneath it. They don't see the dependence architecture. They don't see the systematic capture of other people's productivity. They see the mansion, the car, the lifestyle. They don't see the rental properties generating passive income. They don't see the business systems running autonomously. They don't see the equity positions in essential infrastructure, so they imitate the wrong things. They buy the symbols of wealth instead of building the structures of wealth. They pursue the appearance instead of the mechanism, and in doing so, they make the rich richer. Because every consumption purchase for status is money flowing from the weak to the strong. Let's talk about intellectual dependence, the most insidious form. The poor don't just depend on the rich for money. They depend on them for thoughts, for opinions, for worldviews, for definitions of success. They consume media produced by the wealthy. They follow advice from people who profit from their dependence. They accept narratives that serve power structures without questioning them. The vulgar crowd always is taken by appearances, and the world consists chiefly of the vulgar. Machiavelli wasn't being elitist. He was being observational. Most people don't think critically. They accept consensus. They follow crowds. And consensus is manufactured by media, by institutions, by those who benefit from the masses thinking certain ways. The wealthy don't consume the same information as the poor. They don't watch the same news. They don't follow the same influencers. They don't accept the same assumptions. They pay for proprietary research. They cultivate insider networks. They think independently because they can afford to be wrong. The weak make the rich strong by accepting intellectual frameworks that keep them dependent. By never questioning whether the game they're playing is rigged. By believing that hard work automatically leads to wealth when the structure is designed to concentrate wealth upward. Here's the brutal mechanism. The poor trade time for money. They use that money to buy things from the rich. The rich use that money to buy more income-generating assets. Those assets require labor to operate. The poor provide that labor. The cycle repeats. At no point does wealth flow downward. It's not a ladder, it's a pump, and the pump only runs one direction. The weak make the rich strong by participating in a system designed to extract value from them. And they never question it, because questioning feels futile. Because the system is so massive, so normalized, so seemingly inevitable. But Machiavelli would say, all power structures are artificial. They're maintained by belief and participation. The moment people stop volunteering their dependence, the structure collapses. So how do you stop volunteering? How do you extract yourself from dependent structures? First, own the means of production. Whatever you need, figure out how to produce it or own it. Don't rent what you can buy. Don't subscribe to what you can own. Don't depend on what you can control. Second, develop skills that can't be easily replicated or automated. The more unique and valuable your capability, the less dependent you are on any single employer or client. Third, build systems that generate value without requiring your constant presence. Businesses, investments, intellectual property, anything that works while you sleep. Fourth, create your own distribution. Don't build on someone else's platform. Own your audience. Own your customer relationships. Own your infrastructure. Fifth, eliminate unnecessary expenses. Every recurring cost is a dependence. Every subscription is a surrender of autonomy. Cut everything that doesn't generate returns. Sixth, accumulate capital. Cash is optionality. Cash is the ability to wait for optimal deals. Cash is power in negotiation. Build reserves. Seventh, cultivate relationships with people at your level or above. Stop spending time with people who drain resources. Invest in relationships that create mutual dependence at high levels. Machiavelli's ultimate lesson: power is structural, not moral. The rich aren't rich because they're good. The poor aren't poor because they're bad. The structure determines outcomes, and the structure is designed to concentrate power upward, to make the weak dependent on the strong, to extract value from the bottom and accumulate it at the top. This isn't conspiracy, it's architecture, and the weak participate willingly because they don't see the architecture. They only see their immediate needs and immediate options. But once you see it, once you understand how dependence is weaponized, you can't unsee it. Every transaction becomes visible as a power transfer. Every system reveals itself as a capture mechanism, and that awareness is the beginning of escape. The wealthy don't want you to understand this, not because they're protecting secrets, because their wealth depends on your ignorance. The moment you stop being dependent, you stop feeding the structure. But here's the paradox. You can't eliminate all dependence. You're human. You need food, shelter, security. You live in society. You require some level of participation. The goal isn't complete independence. That's impossible and undesirable. The goal is strategic dependence, depending on things you can control or exit, never depending on single points of failure, never surrendering sovereignty for convenience, and simultaneously becoming what others depend on. Creating value so essential that people need you, building systems that others plug into, owning infrastructure that others must use. This is the flip. From victim of dependence to architect of dependence, from weak to strong, from resource to be extracted to force that extracts. Machiavelli wrote The Prince as a manual for those who want power, not those who deserve it, not those who inherit it, those who want it badly enough to understand how it actually works. The weak make the rich strong because they don't understand the game. They think it's about fairness, about merit, about hard work. It's not. It's about dependence. Who controls what? Who needs whom? Who can walk away and who can't? Every fortune was built by making others need something. Every empire expanded by controlling necessities. Every concentration of power exists because someone engineered dependence and monetized it. This is the lesson. This is the game. This is reality stripped of comfortable lies. You can be offended by it. You can reject it as cynical. You can insist that there must be a more noble path. Or you can accept it, study it, apply it, and extract yourself from the bottom of structures designed to keep you there. The choice is simple. Continue volunteering your dependence and wonder why nothing changes. Or become what others depend on and watch power flow toward you. Machiavelli would ask, which do you prefer? to be the one who needs or the one who's needed. Because in the end, that's all wealth is. The accumulated result of being needed more than you need, of controlling what others must access, of architecting systems where value flows toward you instead of away from you. The weak make the rich strong, not through any flaw, through structural participation in systems they don't control and never questioned. But you're not weak anymore. Not if you've understood this. Not if you've seen the mechanism. Now you're just someone who hasn't repositioned yet. And that's fixable. The question is, will you?